Trade war between the United States and China escalated last week, with the US hiking tariffs on US $200 billion, which is about 273 Sing dollars worth of Chinese goods. Now, this comes after US President Donald Trump said Beijing broke the deal by going back on earlier commitments during months of negotiations. The deadlock continues yesterday after Chinese official media said Beijing would not swallow any bitter fruit that harmed its interests. Now, to tell us more about the US-China trade war, I have East Asia editor Sui Noi with me. Welcome, Sui Noi.
Thank you.
So right now, can you briefly tell us, what is the latest trade situation between China and US?
As we all know, in the past few months, trade talks between the two sides have been progressing quite well, and there was a sense that the two sides were close to a trade deal.
Yes.
So it was a bit of a shock when the US announced last week that it was imposing this $200 billion worth of tariffs on $200 US dollars worth of Chinese goods. And why are they doing this? Well, this is because the US thinks that China is reneging on some of the points that they've agreed upon for the deal.
Yeah,
but
going back on their words.
Yes, that's right. Yes, but to the Chinese, this is not the case. They feel that there are different views on both sides of what was agreed upon by the two presidents, Xi Jinping and Donald Trump, on the basis of these talks. But I'd like to talk a bit about what this development means. Basically it shows that the two sides, that there's still deep differences between the two sides as far as a deal is concerned. So for the Americans, they want the Chinese to codify this agreement into law in China because they're afraid that the Chinese will not act on what they agree upon. But of course, the Chinese don't want this to happen because if they agree to codify into law, it's as much as, sort of giving up a bit of their sovereignty. So it is something that they will find it very difficult to accede to. And there are other things as well which the two sides don't quite agree on. So the Chinese want all tariffs that have been imposed since the trade war started to be eliminated when the trade deal is signed. The Americans don't want that. They want to keep the tariffs on for a while just to make sure that the Chinese will will act on the deal.
And Sui Noi, with this trade war, what does it mean for the rest of the world, especially for here in Singapore?
Right. The global economy is going to be hit by this trade war. Some economists are saying that as much as 0.7%, or rather 0.7 of a percentage point of the global growth will be affected. And economies in the region, including Singapore, will be affected in the sense that our exports to China are going to be affected because China's own trade will slow down because of this trade war with the US. But in the longer run, though, Southeast Asian countries can reap some benefit from this trade war. So you see, a lot of companies will want to leave China to escape the tariffs, and they look to Southeast Asia. So there are economists who think that there are a few countries in ASEAN, or rather quite a number of countries in ASEAN, that will benefit significantly from this trade war. And these countries include Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, the Philippines, Cambodia, Thailand. Basically
those are the few countries, right? And seems like moving forward, Sui Noi, as well, what can we expect? Can we expect some kind of progress from the upcoming talks in Beijing?
it's hard to say, really.
Yeah.
So we have seen, or rather we've heard, positive noises coming
Yeah.
out of the US
Yeah.
and China. So Trump on Monday, if you could say, gave a positive spin,
Yeah.
saying that he expected the talks to be successful,
Yeah.
and that he expected to meet Xi Jinping in June next month on the sidelines of the G20 summit
Yeah.
in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the Chinese side,
Yeah.
the chief negotiator Liu He, he has said that he called this a small setback, and that setbacks are inevitable, and that he is optimistic about how the talks would go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I understand that the new tariffs will not kick in for another 2 or 3 weeks yet, right? Giving the two sides time to come up with something. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yes. So the tariffs will kick in only after the first shipment.
Yeah.
The first ship that leaves China after after they have made the announcement reaches the US. That's about 2 to 3 weeks. Yes, and yes, it does give them time to talk some more. But the differences between the two sides are quite deep, as we have said earlier. And really quite difficult to bridge. So there are some people who think that the stalemate will continue for some time to come. Yes. And
so thank you, Sui Noi, for sharing a bit more on the US-China trade war. Of course, like Sui Noi mentioned, the situation is still developing, and of course, tension seems to escalate a bit, and intensify. Now, for more news and updates on the US-China trade war, do head over to straitstimes.com. Once again, thank you, Sui Noi, for being here.